And then at the end of the day, we're going to have a silent auction. So we're hoping that we get a nice participation. The space is kind of limited, but we're looking for 20 people to start with. And we're going to have a booth and tables set up, and all the details are forthcoming. But I just wanted to kind of put that bug in your ears so you know what's coming. And I think this is an opportunity for all of our members to participate, whether they are plein air painters or not. So that's why we made that change this year. So we're excited about it. So tonight's presentation, oh, and by the way, I'm Brenda Pittick. I should have introduced myself. I'm co-president along with Mike Strickland, who couldn't make it tonight. I've only been in this job a few months, so I still feel a little shy standing up here a little bit. But anyway, I'm glad you're here, and thank you for coming out tonight. And thank you, Lindsay, for being on deck in the control booth and making all the magic happen with our Zoom. And she's going to be recording this so that people can rewatch it on our YouTube channel, and people can anybody can view it and learn about our guild and Luke Allsbrook, excuse me. I'm going to real quick read a short biography off from Luke's website, and then we'll just turn it over to him and let him tell his story and talk about his work. Luke Allsbrook received a BFA in painting from Indiana University in Bloomington and an MFA from the New York Academy of Art. He served as tour artist for His Majesty King Charles III on his 2005 state tour of the United States. Of course, that was back when he was still a prince, creating works that are now a part of the Royal Collection. He's the only American artist ever to fill this post. His work is also included in the collection of Christopher Forbes, Mercedes-Benz, 3M, the U.S. Department of State, the Morris Museum of Art, Michigan State University, Duke University, and SMU, among others. A recipient of the Elizabeth Greenshields Foundation grant, he has lectured widely and taught drawing and painting at the New York Academy of Art, the Lime Academy of Art, William Patterson University, UNC Asheville, and in Italy with the University of Georgia Cortona program. He resides with his wife and family in the mountains of western North Carolina. And with that, I want to welcome Luke to our guild, and we are so grateful and really looking forward to hearing your story and seeing more of your work and learning about how you work as an artist. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. So I can start now, I guess, Brenda. Thank you for having me. I've given lectures before. This is one of my first times doing it on Zoom, so it's a little strange to sit here looking into the computer, but I hope what I have to say tonight will be helpful to you all. I'm going to pause throughout this lecture at different times and ask if there are any questions on the segment that I've done, and also if while I'm talking you have a question, I guess you can put it in the chat or raise your hand there to Brenda or something like that. I'd be happy to answer questions as I go along, and we'll just see how the time goes. Just to start off, I want to say, just listening to Brenda talk about the event you all have, it reminds me there's so many different ways to create art, and art's been created, different kinds of art, different ways of painting throughout art history. So, I'm going to be sharing with you all what has worked for me and what motivates me, what I love to do, and what I found works for me for painting. It's obviously not the only way. So take what's useful to you, and what's not, don't. I guess with that, I'm going to start with I'm going to try and be brief and tell you about my journey, my biography a little bit, and then I'll move on to my paintings and the technique and philosophy of art and all that. So this is my family, and I hope you guys are seeing this okay. I've got 4 kids. They're not kids anymore.
Luke, give me 1 second. I'm trying. Oh,
yep.
There you go. You're good to go.
Okay. So I have 4 kids. They're not kids anymore. My youngest I don't know if you can see my cursor or not, but she's a senior in high school. All the rest have moved on. And my oldest son, 2 years ago, he had a little boy, he and his wife. So I'm actually a new grandfather. So that's my family. Now I'm going to zoom back now. This is going back to 1995. And I wanted to show you this picture because it's a special picture to me. It's kind of a funny picture, but it's at a crossroads for my wife and I. So in this picture, we were just about to graduate from college at IU. My wife was a piano performance major. She's a pianist. And so we're getting ready to graduate from college, and the Young Talent, that's my first real exhibition that I was a part of. So this is my first kind of solo show. We're loading up the paintings to go to that show. We're getting ready to get married, and we're getting ready to move to New York City, where I was going to get my master's. And so I think it's kind of a funny picture of youthful optimism and kind of naive and youthful confidence. But that's what's happening in that picture. I should go back. I ended up as a professional painter, but it's not what I started out trying to do. At first, I thought about medical illustration. Then I decided to go to fine art. And then when I decided to go to the New York Academy, my idea was, well, I'm gonna make my living, support my family by teaching, get a tenure track job somewhere. So I went to the Academy in New York to learn the figure. I grew up painting. I had great teachers growing up, and I grew up doing a lot of landscape painting, and I felt I was weakest on the figure. So that's why I went to the Academy. And the New York Academy is all about the figure. You draw from the figure, you paint, you build clay models of the anatomy. So I was inundated with the figure. And when I graduated, that was a little bit of a scary time. It was a difficult time because I had visions of grandeur of a New York gallery picking me up and seeing my work, and nothing happened. It was just complete silence. And so this is a painting I did early in my career. This is a drawing for it. Here are the thumbnail sketches for it. And this is the final painting. I did this early on, but I think it describes how I felt during that time, in that, this is a beach where I grew up, going to the beach with my family. It's called Topsail Beach in North Carolina. And this definitely describes how I felt, like just alone. I was in a studio out in Brooklyn, in a warehouse. And but there's obviously a little bit of hope. I'm just trying to hold on to hope. You see the star, and I was really fortunate. The first fall after I graduated, I landed an adjunct teaching job at William Patterson University in New Jersey. And the first morning I went in there, the guy was like, he was looking over my resume again, and he saw, it's like, wait, you don't have any teaching experience. At that moment, he realized it. But by that time, I'd shown up in the morning to teach. So that helped me get started. And I had my studio, which was a good thing that I just started. I just rented a space for a studio. And I began painting as best I could, just floundering along on my own. Painting on your own is very different than painting for, a class, for a grade, right? And so I was painting on the street in New York City, plein air painting. I was painting in Central Park. I had a little car, and I would travel out anywhere near New York City, different state parks. This is the Palisades Park. So I was painting anywhere around I could find nature. And I was also painting in my studio. You all are in Georgia. My folks are from North Carolina. I was born in North Carolina, but I grew up in Augusta. And this is the home where I grew up. And so this is, you guys, I'm sure you're familiar with this landscape, the pine trees, and it's a romantic vision of the end of the day, of the end of summertime, and kind of the glow, the purple glow of the pine trees, the glow of lights inside. I've been fishing with my dad. This is my sister. I had an idea of her standing in the yard and all of a sudden looking up into the sky at the viewer of the painting. And so I'm plein air painting. I'm doing paintings of places that I grew up. Again, this is Topsail Beach, and it's kind of a made up scene of the pier there. I'm trying to use my new knowledge of the figure to try and construct paintings. Obviously, I'm in Brooklyn, so I can't see this stuff. So I'm using photos, I'm using my memory and trying to construct paintings from, things that are special to me. I was asking myself the question, if I could paint one painting, what would it be? And I was just trying to do that. So this is some of the preparatory drawings for that painting. This is a close-up. And I'm basically just trying to figure out what I want to paint, trying to figure out how to paint, how to work steadily. All that was difficult. And so we stayed in New York for about 9 years. And when we left, we were in a 1-bedroom apartment on the west side. And I had our little baby was sleeping in one closet. We constructed a bed. Our next little kid was in the next closet. We lived in one room, and in the bedroom is where I had my studio and where my wife had her piano. And so you can imagine how it was a great time. It was exciting. It was a fun time, but New York began to just outprice us, and we were missing family. We were missing nature. So we decided to move back down to North Carolina where my parents were. And when I moved there, at that point, pretty much I had been applying for teaching jobs to teach at a college or something, tenure track jobs, and I could never land one of those jobs, but all the time my paintings were selling more and more. So at a certain point, I was like, all right, well, fine, I'm just gonna sell paintings. That's my best chance to support my family. So that's what I was pretty much doing at that point. And when I moved to North Carolina, I didn't realize what a gold mine, Western North Carolina in the mountains, what it was going to be for landscape painting. I should have. So we moved to North Carolina just to try that out. And here we are 20 years later. We raised our family here, and I've been painting here. Landscape painting, but maybe I'll just pause there and just for a second, if there are any questions. I kind of rushed through my path to becoming a professional artist. So if there are any questions, or I can move on, I'll just pause for 1 second and see if there are any questions.
Does anyone have any questions for Luke? I have a quick one, Luke. I was kind of shocked at the size of that painting in that little apartment.
Right. Yeah.
So is that typical of your studio works? Would you say? And if so, where do you store that stuff? Man.
Well, hopefully you don't want to store it, you want to sell it. So hopefully what you're trying to do, but I do like to work big, and my studio that I'm in, I don't have like a big grand studio. So it is difficult sometimes, but I like working big. It is important, talking about studio practice and galleries and the career of painting. Yeah, I think it's important to work in different sizes, because if you just are showing just big paintings, just by necessity, you're limiting your clients a certain, economic level. So I work in different sizes, but yeah, I do like to work really big. And I like to work big outside.
Well,
do
you
yeah, go on.
Uh-oh, sorry about that. Can you guys hear me? Okay, Luke, my
Yes.
question is, do you often or sometimes do a smaller painting before going large, like and pretty much take it to finish? So perhaps you have a 16 by 20 or something like that to work out any kinks and then go big?
Yeah, and I'm actually gonna talk about that. So let me pause you on that question. I'm gonna share that. And,
Okay.
any other questions?
Any other questions? Yes, hold on just a second.
Hi, this is Kate. When you were
Thank you.
starting out, how did you go about finding your audience? You said that the galleries weren't necessarily knocking down your door when you were living in New York. So, how did you go about finding your buyers and getting your first sales?
Well, the first thing is, I went with the philosophy that if I am painting something that I'm totally enamored with, that I totally love when I'm looking at it and painting it, that somebody else will love that too and want to buy it. So as far as my philosophy of painting, that's what I was trying to do. I was focusing not so much on marketing, but on making paintings that I was passionate about. And also I was focusing on just the idea that if I do a great painting, a quality painting somewhere, somebody somewhere will want to buy it. Now, in terms of how you start selling, it's probably like you guys have experienced. Your first buyers are your family members, people that know you, close friends, and as you move on in your career, slowly it starts to be more people that just collectors, people you don't know. But there's no rhyme or reason. There's no I shouldn't say there's not rhyme or reason. There's no rules to the game. You're just trying to find any way you can to create work and sell your work and market yourself. So I I tried anything I could, and I would just throw seed out. I would market. I applied to grants. I applied to teaching jobs. I applied to galleries. And at a certain point, my model was actually taken from the Psalms. You throw your seed out there and just kind of forget about it. But always at least one of those seeds you're throwing out, something comes back. So I tried not to get stressed out and worried about how my career is going to turn out. I just tried my best to keep painting and keep throwing out seed and just keep going. That's the best advice I can give you about how I did it.
That's a great answer. Thank you, Luke.
Should I move on, or is there another
Yes.
question?
Yeah, let's move on.
All right, I'll move on. Landscape painting is the basis of my painting, and so I love building easels. And painting boxes. I just love being out in nature, in the weather, and just being out there painting. So even though I paint also from photographs and in my studio, I'd say the basis of what I do is painting outside. So this is an area near my house and an old farm near my house. And as you can see, the paintings are pretty big. I'm very interested in composition. I'm going to talk more about abstraction, but you can see I've chosen really carefully where I'm standing. So I get this white rectangle in the middle of the painting, the road going up on the left, and so forth. And the paintings, because they're big, oftentimes big, this painting is maybe 6 feet. You can't do it in one shot. So I'm coming out the same time every day and trying to capture, doing all I can to capture what I'm seeing. And you guys know from painting, from life outside, you're getting so much information is getting thrown to you and everything's changing, the light's changing. And obviously each day you come out, everything's changed at least a little. So the painting ends up being a faithful representation, not of just one afternoon or 1 hour, but a faithful representation of, days of standing out there. So I think let me talk about photography. This is, again, I spend a lot of time choosing exactly where my vantage point so that I get a good composition. Just because you have something beautiful to paint doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to make a great painting. What you're painting has to have a design to it, an abstract design to it that actually works as a painting. When I'm out there, it's like I said before, when you're out in nature, there's so much information being thrown at you. And I think, I wrestle a lot, probably like you all do, how much to use photography. Photography, technology in general, computers, they're a great tool. They can also be a hindrance. My general feeling about it is that when you're outside, you're confronting reality, just like, I'm talking to you on Zoom. It's somewhat filtered. If I was standing right in front of you, talking to you face to face, that's actual reality. And so it's kind of the same thing with a photograph. When we use photographs to paint from, you're getting a slice of reality. It is it's an accurate slice, but it's still a slice. And there's a quote from E.M. Forster I love where he says, "Art is not so much like laying bricks; it's like trying to capture a winged horse." And so, as artists, when we paint, we are, at least I think, we're trying to convey something real and something about our real experience of what it is to be a human being living in this world. So we're taking when I'm out there painting from reality, you can't capture it all. You're just taking a great leap and trying to capture something of what you're experiencing. Maybe I should I'll move on just a little bit longer. That's not to say you can't create great paintings from photographs. I just recently traveled to Italy, and I just had one night to walk around Venice, and I took all these photos, and I made a few paintings from these little iPhone photos. Now I did manipulate the photos. This is the original photo. You can see where I straightened up the distortion from the perspective. Then you can start obviously cropping the painting or cropping the image. And I even, if you look at the door on the right, I didn't like the way that the spacing was over there. So I kind of manipulated the image to move things around. But I ended up with this photo, which is what I used. I'll go back. What I used to create this, sorry guys, to create this painting. I'll go forward again now. This is one more painting in that series. And I guess what I loved about this, what I was trying to capture, is obviously the beauty of the light of that city at night. But Venice also has a real grittiness to it. So I was trying my best to, it's so easy especially when you're working for a photo, to like get very controlled and clean things up. And I was trying to keep the gritty sense of that city. So I was trying to capture that. I'll go just a little while longer. I guess it was Lindsay who asked if I do paintings from a study and then work bigger. Yes, I do that. A lot of times I'll do a plein air study like what you're seeing here. This is the study. And then I take photos. This is that same beach, Topsail Beach. And then I take it back to the studio, and you can see my study right above my computer screen there on the right. I don't know if you guys can see my cursor or not, but and then I'm using the study, I'm using memory, I'm using sometimes like dozens of photographs to create the large painting. So this is the finished painting. I guess this is about 8 feet painting. And so, yes, I definitely do that, use studies. This is another scene. This is actually a commission. And I did this little study of this lake property. this is the finished painting. Now, this is actually a really large painting. This was about as big a painting I can do in my studio. This painting's about 12 feet long. This is a close-up of that. All right, so let me pause there again. I've talked about using photography, different ways I go about creating big paintings in the studio. Any questions? Or I can just keep moving on. It's totally up to you guys.
Luke, this is Brenda, and I'll start off, and then I'll look out into the audience. When you're working this large, do you, and I guess we didn't even ask you, do you work in oils? And if so, do you do underpaintings with acrylics? Or you just go right in with oil paint?
Yeah, let me answer that. So yes, just oil paint. That's all I do. I do, as far as an underpainting, I have done acrylic underpaintings. I've done different grisailles over the years. At definitely the New York Academy, they taught me layered painting. My philosophy of painting has become, you guys know the great, you've probably heard of Horatio Nelson, right? The great captain, any sailing captain. But anyways, there's a quote where apparently he said that when he attacks the enemy, he's like, hey, throw out all the strategies and I just go straight for the enemy. So that's kind of become the way I paint. I tend not to do underpaintings and layers and extra steps. I try and cut out extra steps, and I try and go as straight as I can at what I want to achieve. And usually that involves just a really very basic but very accurate drawing of the major masses, and then just going straight into massing in the major colors, the major masses, the major areas of the painting. So does that answer your question, Brenda?
It does. It does. Does anyone else have a question? I'm up in the audience. Anybody? No hands going up yet, so we'll try again later. Thanks, Luke.
Okay, all right.
Keep going.
All right. Let's talk about abstraction. Most of you all are, from looking at your work, you're representational painters. I'm a traditionalist. I'm a perceptual painter. I'm a realistic painter. I think the word abstraction is much misunderstood and misused. To me, every painting is abstract in that we're all using colors, shapes, and lines to convey something. And the question is, no matter if you're looking at an abstract painting or a great Renaissance painting, the question is whether the abstraction of that painting, the abstract forms, are being used in a powerful way. Are they being used to advantage? To me, this is a great example. I love Norman Rockwell. To me, he's obviously referred to as an illustrator, but I think as time goes on, he'll be seen as one of the greatest painters of the 20th century. I believe he did things that had not been done before in terms of expression, humor, his whole body of work and breadth of work. But if you look at this, the reason I'm showing this is squint your eyes at this painting and just look how he's thinking abstractly. Look at the dark and light shapes and the way that dark shapes meld into each other and light shapes meld into each other. So if you squint your eyes almost shut, it's an abstract design of dark and light. I sometimes show this little image because it helps convey what I'm talking about. To the left, I would say, is what I refer to as illustration. You're drawing and you're painting you're trying to describe what the thing is. On the right, you're describing how it looks. So in other words, if I look out on a landscape or water or clouds or people, whatever it is, the only reason I know what I'm looking at is that there's a pattern of color, of shapes, of lines that's hitting my eyes, that's letting my eyes know what the thing is. And so my favorite paintings are ones where I feel that the artist their eyes are really in tune with abstraction. In other words, they're really in tune with not so much what the thing is. They may love what the thing is. Like you can see the love of these phone booths, that city, that era, but he's accessing it, he's describing it by being really in tune with the pieces of color that are hitting his eyes. So I was actually thinking, and this is Richard Estes, for those of you who don't know, it's a photorealist painting, but you can see that it's definitely about the pieces of color that he's seeing. I had that painting in mind when I did this painting. Like I love the scene. I'm in love with that barn and the time of day, but I'm accessing that subject matter by looking at the pieces of color that are coming to my eyes. So hopefully you can see a similarity there with the Estes painting. I also think this is Edward Hopper. I also think that besides just a formal thing of looking at shapes and colors, to me, when you're in tune with the abstract qualities of the painting, it's the abstract elements of the painting that really most powerfully can convey the meaning. So this is a great example. This is Edward Hopper, and it's called The Suicide. Well, before you ever knew that title, just look at the abstract design of it, these like the dark, ominous shapes, like you feel that something ominous is happening just because the way it looks, the darks and lights of the drawing, just the way it looks, they convey the subject matter. So it's not just that you're seeing a guy jumping off a bridge. The abstract qualities of the painting itself are helping to convey or are conveying that feeling, that the subject matter. This is I think it's called the 100 Guilder print. So this is Rembrandt, and same thing. To me, it's a etching of the crucifixion, but I don't think you'd have to know anything about Christianity or about the story of Christ to feel that something, tragic, something monumental, something or something glorious is happening just by the way the etching looks. So I've thrown out a lot of information there, and I hope I've conveyed kind of my ideas about abstraction. I can say, somebody that does it really well, maybe this will help convey it, is Hitchcock. I love film, and to me, Hitchcock movies, just by the way they're filmed, just by the way they look, they put you on edge. In other words, it's not like he has to show somebody, hacking somebody up with a chainsaw or whatever to scare you. Just the way a stairway looks, or the angle of a guy's jaw, or there's something about the way he's using the medium of film to convey the horror, or to put you on edge. So anyways, let me pause there. I've given you that's a lot of like philosophical, heady stuff about abstraction, but it's important to me. So any questions about that, or where maybe it's not clear what I'm saying?
Luke, I'll start. This is Brenda. Would you say then that what first draws you to a scene is the abstract quality?
Well, to me, I'm going to contradict myself a little bit, okay? To me, I've definitely heard painters say, oh, it doesn't matter that it's a plate of apples. It doesn't matter what you're painting. That's just the means to get to the painting. I'm opposite. I think the subject matter is everything. I think the love of, for me, the love of what you're looking at, the love of what you're trying to paint, the subject matter, that is everything. That's the destination. However, the means to get there is the vehicle. That the vehicle, the means to get there is abstraction. So in other words, if I am walking outside and I just all of a sudden, like, that's it, I see this tree that's lit up. Yes, that the beauty of that tree is my destination, but we're visual artists, we're painters. And the way we have to get there is by being, at least for me, being brutally honest about the shapes and colors that are hitting my eye from that tree. And if I'm faithful to those abstract shapes, if you will, I end up at the destination, which is the tree. Does that answer your question, Brenda?
It does very well. Who else has
Okay.
a question for Luke? Let's throw a question out to him. Anybody?
Or,
out there?
yeah, whatever's fine.
Okay, let's move on.
All right, we'll move on. I want to show this painting because it's an example, I think, a decent example of what I'm talking about in my own work. I've done, I think, 4 paintings of like religious narratives. This one was commissioned by SMU, their theological school. And I want to show you the path that I took to get to this painting. This was, these were my first sketches. And I guess I should go back for everybody who's not familiar with the story. This is a story where basically Jesus is having dinner with the Pharisees, who are the religious leaders. And this prostitute, apparently she was a prostitute, came into this dinner, and he's had some interaction with her where she has been forgiven in some way, or she's felt his forgiveness. And so she comes into this dinner and starts washing his feet with her tears. And the religious leaders are appalled that he's even letting this woman, who they felt was, in that culture, she was completely unclean. And so they were appalled that he was even letting her touch him. So that's the story. And basically Jesus says, look, she's got great love. She's showing great love because she's been forgiven so much. And he basically says, look, you Pharisees haven't shown me any consideration. And here this prostitute is pouring out her love to me. And the point is, because she's been forgiven much, she loves much. That's the idea of the story. So here I go back to the painting. How do I convey this? This is what I've been commissioned to do. And so you can see I'm trying to come up with abstract design. I had an idea about 3 windows, and I'm trying to picture this room back in biblical times. This was my first study, and I was very unhappy with it because, to me, I kept ending up in what I would call Sunday school land and toga land. Like I was just, if you can understand what I mean, I felt like I just kept picturing the scene as it might be pictured in a Sunday school room. And then I was at my brother's house, sitting on his front porch, and it's like, you can see this was my brainwave. It just like hit me all in a rush. And I was remembering when I visited Italy when I was a student, and I was thinking of the dappled sunlight that would come down into a terrace. And then I was picturing, again, I don't know if you guys can see the cursor. It looks like you might be able to. But I was picturing almost a yin and a yang, a light side and a dark side. And instead of the Pharisees, see there on the right-hand side of the painting with Jesus, instead I pictured the Pharisees on the left and all this darkness to the left. And then the woman is emerging out of the darkness and coming into the light area of the painting towards Christ. And so this is the first study. And you can see the Pharisees are now over to the left, and the woman is emerging. She's coming out of that darkness, out of that judgment, and coming into the space where Christ is. These are, again, talking about photos. I had tons of photos of the models. This is a photo of my son. I used him as one of the Pharisees. This is a drawing on the canvas, and you can see I don't do a detailed drawing on the canvas, just the major masses, but the major masses have to be really, really accurate. At least I find that. This is in the middle of the painting. This is a close-up, and you can see, just I'll show you on the close-up, my idea was also that the woman is moving from dark to light. She's moving from rigidity, like there's lots of like stark, rectilinear lines on the left. She's moving from that to organic. So you can see the flowers are like starting to break through the concrete. So you can see how the abstract idea, dark to light, rigid to organic, indoor to outdoor, all that is starting to hopefully convey the meaning of the story. So this is like I think it was like 6 feet, and then I had the text of the biblical text inscribed on the frame. So hopefully that gives you an idea of how I was thinking about abstraction. And of course, again, you'll have to tell me, Brenda, if y'all are seeing the cursor, but
We see
you
it.
know,
We are.
every shape, yeah, okay, every shape I'm thinking about. It's like this piece of light, this piece of light, you know, every little piece of light or dark that's showing through, I'm trying to use those in a beautiful way to compose them. So let me pause there. Any questions or comments about the painting or about abstraction or anything, or I can just keep moving on.
Yeah, we're wowed. I think we're awestruck.
Okay.
Did you hear that, Luke? She said
No, I didn't. Sorry.
the explanation was excellent, and I agree. Fascinating.
Okay,
I'm looking at this image, and I'm, just the addition of the water in front, like from a design standpoint, how important that is, and the reflection. Was that another well thought out idea, or you just wanted? I mean, can you talk about that for just a second before moving on?
You're talking about the pool in the foreground?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so one of my professors at the academy talked about the crucial foreground. I've never forgotten that. The foreground is your entryway into the painting, and you don't want to obstruct that in any way. You want to be able to walk into the painting. So that's the first thing. The foreground was difficult because I didn't know what to put there. And I liked the idea of the water because that in Christianity, water obviously is a big symbol. And I like the idea of, the woman is crying, her tears are wetting, or she's bathing Christ's feet with her tears. And so I was always imagining her tears dropping into this water. So I felt it reinforced that idea. So yeah, that was the idea for that. But I did struggle, what to put in the foreground.
That was a brilliant solution, and it's beautiful.
It worked. Yeah, it was a workable solution. Want me to move on?
Yes.
Okay. This is another, I guess I put this afterwards because it's also somewhat religious. I like doing commissions at times because, not always, but commissions will make you paint things that you normally wouldn't paint. So this woman came to me, and she had actually had some sort of dream or vision that she wanted me to paint. And so she described me, and I wanted to tell you about it because it was her story was heartbreaking. She grew up with a live-in boyfriend for a dad, and this guy was just like really bad. Like he would electrocute the kids on the cow electric fence. He would make them sleep outside. He would actually he would make them go without food. He would actually make the girl wear like a necklace with like a little container that had feces in it. And that always made her go to, like, when she went to a friend's house or school, she had to wear that. So she was constantly covering up. So she had this vision, and the vision, his is one of the first sketches. So she's describing this to me, is that she's in this storm, but she's being lifted up out of the water by these hands, godlike hands. And so she's being sustained out above the water. And then beneath her, in this dream or vision she had, there are these beneath the water was like completely quiet, which I'm sure you've experienced at the ocean when you swim under the water. So underneath the water is completely still, completely quiet, completely calm. And so this was the challenge of this commission. And so you can see I'm starting to try and figure out a composition. This is the little color study. And again, I don't like to draw per se. I don't draw a lot. I only stop and draw when I actually absolutely have to plan out something. I would just rather just paint. So this is the color study. And this is the close-up of the fish. It was kind of fun. Here's a close-up of her, and she gave me photographs of herself when she was little. And this is the finished painting. And so, you know, again, I said I'm a perceptual painter. This is from imagination, but for each part of the painting, I'm having to look at photographs of the fish, and I got somebody to model the hands. I'm, looking at photographs, and I'm doing my, memory of painting waves from life and the sky. And basically, you're trying to pull everything you can together in any way possible to achieve this imaginative vision that this girl had. So this is that painting, which was kind of an interesting commission. So I'll pause there again just to make sure, see if anyone has any questions.
Does anyone have any questions? That's fascinating. Fascinating. Okay. Beautiful.
Keep going?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to keep going. I mentioned earlier, I don't know how I came about with this question, but I do think it's an important question, which is I ask myself sometimes, Luke, if you could paint. Now, this is when I'm in my studio. Obviously, when I'm out in the landscape, I'm just wandering around, and then I see something, and it's almost like the painting's finished. When I see that thing, the painting's done. I just have to come and work, be faithful to what I'm seeing. But a painting like this, I'm in the studio and I ask myself, if I could paint one painting, what would it be? And so that's what generated this painting. And it's a loose memory from childhood. And I'm thinking about that time of day, kind of like the other painting. But it was a specific memory of, do you guys remember like when you're a little kid and you're playing outside and the clock is ticking down, you can hear the adults like talking and on the porch or whatever, and you know that any second your mom might call and say, hey, it's time to go home now, and you're all playing like Ghost in the Graveyard at night, and just the sound of your parents talking, the security of that, and just playing outside that time of evening. So I started, I'll talk more about the subject matter, but let me go into how I did it. I started by taking pictures of that era of house, which I guess is like 30s, 40s kind of house, because it reminded me of my grandparents. And so I started by taking lots of pictures in Waynesville, where I live, of that era of house and that time of day. So the time of day I was going after, here's a color study from that time of day. It's when the light is balanced. So the light in the sky and the light coming on in the houses is almost balanced. That's the time of day I was going for. Then you start to, this is a color study. I'm going backwards a little bit. This is a color study of the whole scene. So this is maybe, 24 inches. I'm looking at somewhere there should be sketches. Let me go forward here. If I don't have my sketches, I'm going to be mad. I can't find my sketches. Anyways, I did lots of thumbnail sketches, just like the ones you saw before, trying to work out each part of the painting. And so, there are different views here that I wanted. And so you do a lot of thumbnail sketches to get all the different views you want. And then from there, once you have a basic idea of where you're going, then I start taking photos for the photo references for the figures. This is my wife. So you can see the way those figures worked out. And I took pictures of my kids. This was a while back. This is when they were little. This is in the wintertime. I had my kids running around outside in swim pants, in the cold. So this is, you see them in the painting. This is the drawing on the canvas. I think this is like a 8-foot painting. The guy to the right is my grandfather. So I had the idea of him. He's kind of walking off the painting to the right. And I'm kind of picturing him, he's passed on now, obviously, and I'm picturing him kind of like passing on. And what I want to show you, if you'll look at the landscape to the right, that is actually a landscape taken from an area around Topsail Beach inland. And it's sad because that's a magnolia tree right here. And everything you're looking at in this study, this was from years and years ago. I did this study. It's all a parking lot now. It's all like a Walmart and a McDonald's and a big parking lot. It's all gone except for this one little magnolia tree, which is still in the median. But I took the idea of that landscape and I put it back in that, that right-hand side. And then talking of composition and abstraction again, it just ended up that the grandfather's walking off to the right and almost equidistant, the little boy is kind of running off to the left. And that just kind of happened, but I think my eye saw that, balancing those two things. So that was that painting. Any questions or comments on that?
I would say this is a scene that feels so familiar to probably everyone, and then people are nodding
Yeah.
their heads.
Yeah.
You're right. We all have those memories of that time of day, and it really evokes emotions in me. And I can, like you say, I can hear the adults talking and knowing, I'm looking for a jar to collect the fireflies.
Right. That's right. That's right.
Are
Yep.
there any other questions? Anyone?
I
What
will
size-
say, go on.
Yeah, what size is the painting?
I think it's maybe 8 feet. And I actually did 2 versions of this. I did one version of it. Then I had a client up in Pittsburgh love this painting, and they want me to do the exact same painting, but instead of, this is my mom, they wanted to put their grandmother in there. So I got some photos of her and put her in the painting. But besides that, it was almost a copy of the first painting, but same thing. That painting was about 6 feet. Brenda, I wanted to say, are there any other questions before I?
No, it doesn't look like it.
Okay, I wanted to say, this is a romantic painting. You're painting something beautiful. I just wanted to say, I know I'm talking to realist painters, and a lot of times we are trying to paint something beautiful, and it is a challenge because the more noble, the more beautiful thing that you're trying to paint, the greater the risk that it can become sentimental or sweet or cringy or trite. And that's an inherent danger in trying to paint, or actually to do anything good, is that it can fail in that way. And I just wanted to mention that but it's a good challenge. It's a challenge we shouldn't shy away from or be ridiculed out of, because it's a great challenge to try and paint something beautiful and give it all the weight that it deserves. And I know beautiful, quote, beautiful, pretty paintings get trashed a lot in modern art. And I obviously don't listen to that. I think this is the last painting I wanted to show you all. This is a very recent painting. And this painting is also pretty big. I think it's 11 feet long. And I've mentioned Topsail Beach. This is this is an imaginary scene. It's not a real place, but it is a conglomeration. I tried to paint about everything, all the different scenes of going to the beach growing up that I love. And let me see what the next slide is. And the basic idea of the painting is, well, the challenge of the painting was to try and get all the different scenes that I had in my head, to get them all into one coherent space that at least somewhat worked with, perspective. So this is the right-hand side of the painting. Obviously the seeing underneath the water was important to me. Oops, sorry, I went the wrong way. I wanted to be able to see into the room at this little boy that's asleep, and I wanted to see out into the beach. And so this one took a lot of drawing to try and figure out, how can I get all those things into one space and it actually at least fool the person into thinking that it's one coherent space. So I spent a lot of time drawing and listing out. A lot of times you can see right here, I'm just listing the things that I want in the painting. I just start with that. This is important to me. This is important to me. And then you just keep working at it. And finally I ended up with this. This is a pretty good sized drawing. I guess it's, I don't know, 18 inches or something. But when I get to this point, then I can start to move to the canvas. And this is the drawing on the canvas. Now the idea of the painting, let me talk a little more about that, is I kept a little picture of myself at the beach when I was this age. And obviously this is a special place to me, but I was painting about this age. There's a kind of innocence to childhood, and not that little kids are innocent. I had 4 little kids. I'm not saying that, but I am talking about that time of life right before you get to your teenage years, and difficult problems and struggles and dysfunction and different things start to enter your life in a difficult way. And so I'm remembering this time of life, and I'm also thinking about this little boy's been out on the beach all afternoon, maybe sunburned, and now he's just like crashed in the afternoon. He's got his book, like his dinosaur book and his solar system book, and he's crashed on the bed. And what I was thinking about, it's kind of hard for me to convey, but I'm thinking about this little boy asleep in this quiet room, so precious. And yet all around him, the wide world is continuing on. So there's fish swimming underneath the pier, and fish getting trapped, and stingrays, and out on the little sand of the sound, there's the little, fiddler crabs that are out there. The whole world is just of nature, of people, is just going on. It's like there's people sailing out in the sound, and other people in the house are going about they have their own world, their own lives they're going on along with. People out on the beach. So it's just this idea that this little kid is asleep, and just like all of us, we're living our own private lives, and yet the world is a huge place, and people in the world, and the universe is moving on all the time. So I guess the last thing is, actually, let me go back. I'm going to go back to if I can get back to the room, sorry. There's some things in the room that were important to me. Like, first of all, the chair was to me like this, I guess, honestly, I was thinking of a godlike presence of protection in the room that's watching over him all the time. And then centered above that chair is this a cross-like symbol, but it's actually a fouled anchor. And in the Navy, that's the symbol used by the Navy. A fouled anchor is not a good thing. A fouled anchor is a bad thing that happens. And the idea that the reason the Navy uses that symbol is because it's an idea that you should be prepared, or that you have to be prepared for any calamity. And so I was thinking about that, the time of life that this boy is, as he's getting ready to enter, young adulthood and adulthood, what he's going to have to encounter. And then the picture of the World War II veteran on the wall. That's just kind of what I grew up with. So I was thinking about the ancestors, like my grandfather that went through life before me and the difficult times he had to encounter. And then I was always into like pirates and sailing ships when I was little, so I wanted a sailing ship in there, and that's actually Magellan's ship, the Victory, I think it was called. But that's the ship that circumnavigated the world, so it was just reinforcing the idea of you know, the wide world. So let me push on again. I guess you noticed the frame. The frame took just about as long to make as the rest of the painting. I just had this idea, something I wanted to do for a while of building into the frame, you know, shells and driftwood and all that. So I wanted the frame to be as much a part of this environment as the rest of the painting. So that's the final, again, that's the final painting. I wish you could see it large size. It's on exhibition right now in Greenville.
Well, we kind of are seeing it large size. Luke.
Yeah, you are. That's
we're,
right.
We're on a big screen here, and I'm so grateful that we have the opportunity to see it large. I mean, this is a real treat.
And you're seeing my tiny little 1-inch thumbnail, ginormous.
I'm going to walk around. I'm going to see if I can get somebody to ask some questions. Did you hear that? She said,
No.
was this a commission, or do you have ownership over this? Or I think you mentioned it's hanging somewhere currently.
Yes, this was not a commission. This falls into one of those paintings. I'm like, if I could do one painting, what would it be? And definitely when I'm doing that, well, in general in painting, but definitely when I do a painting like this, I'm pushing myself to paint something that challenges me in some way, you know? So that's what I'm thinking about. So yeah, the painting is still in my ownership. It's at a show right now. There's a show in Greenville at the Lens Gallery. It's actually at a church which has a beautiful museum quality gallery. And it's a little bit, it's not my regular show at a gallery, but it's at a museum kind of space. Anyways, it's at this show called Looking for a Place, and that show will be up through January. But no, this painting is for sale. Anybody there that wants to buy it, you're welcome to it.
Are there any other questions about this painting or anything else that Luke has shared with us tonight? My first question is, do you ever sleep?
Oh, I'm glad you asked that, Brenda. I'm really glad you asked that because I know it looks like from showing you all these paintings that I'm just painting around the clock. That's absolutely false. It's always been a struggle for me to get started painting. It's usually I would like rather vacuum a room or like go do yard work. There's always often like I don't want to face it. I don't want to do it. It's like pushing a big boulder to get it started. So I always tell artists when they want advice about being an artist, I'd say practice starting, even if it's just 15 minutes or 30 minutes. Just practice starting over and over. Because I don't know, I guess there's some artists who just have a compulsion to paint and paint all the time. That is definitely not me. Once the ball gets rolling and I get in the zone, sometimes it's super enjoyable, super fulfilling, but often it's just discipline and, you know, all right, leave my studio and like go for a run, you know, to go for a little walk, come back, try again. And it is difficult to get in the zone and to keep painting and to keep producing. I found that's usually when I talk to other artists, that's usually what I hear. I think it's not all artists are like that, but I'm definitely like that. So no, I'm always trying to increase my the amount of hours that I paint every day, but it's been a career-long struggle to get where I paint more and more every day. It's hard.
Is there anything on your easel in your room right now that you can show us? Or is that intrusive?
I can show you. And I actually,
Or in a
that's
sketchbook or something that's in the works right now?
let's see.
Yeah.
If you can see it, I'm not sure my cord's gonna reach, Brenda.
Okay.
It's not, wait, actually I can. Hold on, here I come. Can you see that?
Ooh, yes.
Uh,
Yes.
I'm looking at my little screen trying to,
We
there
like
it
it.
is.
Beautiful.
I have to back up.
There you go. You got it.
Listen, I've been in a slump. You know, it's really hard to see in this little screen what I'm doing, but I've been in a slump. And this painting, I actually went out on a canoe yesterday and then stopped at a certain place and saw the scene and painted it. And boy, it really helped me get out of a slump I've been in for a few weeks, just to go to a place that was inspiring. And so I think I'm going to do some canoe paintings for a while. That's my idea.
Well, we're going to be watching on your website and
for
spying on
canoe
what you're
painting.
doing
Yeah.
and getting more inspiration. I know this has been very inspiring to me. I'm just dumbfounded. Just beautiful,
I'm so
beautiful.
glad. Good. Well,
The
I hope it was helpful to you all.
What do you think, guys? Yeah, yeah. We are so grateful for you putting this together for us and sharing your wisdom and your experience and showing up here tonight for us. And thank you, Luke. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You know, thank you for having me.
One last chance for any questions. Okay, did you hear that? We'd like you to come back another time and hear about the Prince Charles, King Charles thing.
Okay, I can take 5 minutes now and tell you, or I can whatever. It's up to you.
We'll take 5 minutes now, and then if we feel like that's not enough, we're going to have you back. How's
Okay,
that?
so all right. So what happened was Prince Charles, whenever he goes on a state tour, for many, many years, he chooses an artist to go on the tour with him. And he does that to be a patron to the arts because he's an artist himself. He's a great watercolorist. And he also does it as a way to document. You have a kind of treasured document of his trip. And so I don't know if you guys remember, but he traveled with the Duchess when he was just about to be married, I believe. And they came to the U.S. on a state tour, and they wanted an American artist, and he was gonna travel around. He was gonna travel around Northern California for part of his trip and go to organic farms because he's into organic farming. So he wanted an artist that did landscape and rural landscape. So I was in the right place at the right time. I was American. I did rural painting, and I knew a British artist who recommended me. So I really just lucked out big time and got asked to go. And what it involved was traveling with Prince Charles at that time, and we would go visit these different farms. And I was in a motorcade traveling with his staff, and the motorcade would stop and they would go and tour the organic farm, and then I would jump out and paint in my suit, and that's what I did. And so I just traveled with Prince Charles, and when I was done, I had a bunch of studies which he purchased, and then it's customary for he's called the tour artist, or she is called the tour artist. The tour artist does a work of art and presents that or gifts that to the prince after the tour. So I came back. And I think I can pull it up if you've got a second, Brenda.
Yes, we do.
I'll pull up those paintings so you can see it. These are some of the paintings I did. And I think you guys are seeing this giant. This is like an 8-inch, 6-inch little painting. You're seeing it giant on your screen. So these are tiny little studies I did. So these are some of the organic farms. And let me show you the one I came back to the studio and used the study to create. This was a larger painting. This is maybe 4 or 5 feet. And so you can see the entourage out here in the field. And so I did this painting as a gift for him. And I did get to interact with Prince Charles some and the Duchess, Camilla. They were both super, super nice. They were super encouraging. They seemed genuinely wanting to be a help to me in my career and encourage me. And they were just, and he was very funny. He was humorous. He was easy to talk to. And he was just a delight to talk to. So that was that trip. And it was the only stressful time when I was painting and the prince would talk to me, I was pretty much fine. It was the social times, like the dinners or, meeting people, that it was, you're around all these Brits and royalty and you're trying to say the right thing and not act like a complete idiot. And that was, those are the times that I was anxious. And times when there were lots of paparazzi around and stuff, I'd almost have to bite my lip. It's like, I can't believe I'm here. What am I doing here? Kind of thing. So that's what that trip was.
Did he do any painting alongside you? And if so, did he gift you one of his paintings?
No, he didn't do any
Darn.
painting on the trip. I think he does do painting sometimes on his trip, but I was really impressed with the pressure. Obviously, when he's out in the public eye, he's just swarmed with people and press, and it's I don't think he really had any time to paint on that trip, but I could tell I felt like he kind of wanted to.
I'll bet he did. What a great experience that had to have been. You were
It
on
was
the
a
road with him.
lifetime experience.
For how long were you with him?
I think it was 5 days.
Nice. Very nice. Last chance. Questions? Luke, thank you so very much. We
And
sure
thank
appreciate
you to all
it.
of you for listening and for hear what I have to say and your questions and everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night, Luke.
All right.
Man, that was good, wasn't it? Amazing. Thank you guys for coming out tonight on a windy night. I really appreciate it. If you didn't sign in, I'd love it if you'd come and sign the book. And follow Luke. Get on his website and feel free to drop him a line on his website. And, it'd be nice if we thanked him. If you got a few emails, that would be nice.